Say rolling around, sitting on doves, can't lie, I was high on shrubs.
Since I'm going back with another video, I'm Strange Wang, he is Nate. Today we have a bracket for the best cinematography of the 2010s. Nate's going to tell you how we do our brackets, which is very simple, and then he's going to go over cinematography.
It's true. How we do our brackets is we have two movies, and then we're both going to say which one we think we should go through, and if we agree, that one goes through. If we disagree, we play rock, paper, scissors, and if one of us has never seen the movie, then whoever has seen the movie just gets to pick themselves. So,
I feel like this one we could be a bit more slack on that, just because of how
we've
much...
probably seen clips from it and like all that stuff.
Watch Mojo, Instagram, Cinefix.
Which kind of leads us to our next point, which is cinematography. It can be really pretty, or it could be really, really boring. But when it is done really well, it completely does nothing but add to a movie. The type of shading you use, the way you frame shots, coloration, saturation, blocking, all of that stuff can elevate a film well above what it would have been without it. And that is why cinematography is so incredibly important. It's truly its own art form. And the first two movies are both actually really good examples of that, because it is 1917 versus Birdman.
If we were doing a top five, these both would be in my top five.
Yeah.
And this is our first matchup. I didn't make this list. So
yeah, cinematography-wise, these are both pretty insane.
They knew what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah.
So Birdman, I feel like, is a much prettier film.
Sure.
Where 1917 is more impressive.
Yeah.
Me, personally, I've seen pretty films.
Mm-hmm.
I look in the mirror, I see pretty faces. But 1917, I've never seen a film like that.
Right.
So I'm leaning towards 1917.
I'm also leaning towards 1917, and the reason being Birdman, for the most part, takes place inside. It is a lot easier to make colors and like shading and everything the way you want it to be when you are working inside, whereas 1917 is filmed mostly outside, so what you have to do extra to get what you want, I feel like takes a little more work and makes it a little more, like you said, impressive to me. So
obviously you have the scene of downtown in his underwear, and he goes through the
Times
glass things hanging. Obviously that's like the big standout scene from that film.
Which I understand why they made these two.
Oh, for sure.
Because they're both one shot films.
Yeah.
So 1917.
1917. That's like gonna be a hard one to beat.
All right, Blade Runner 2049 versus True Grit.
I feel like True Grit is above average because the Coens, like, they're good filmmakers.
Right.
But, like, there's nothing in that movie that pops out at me.
Yeah.
Cinematography-wise.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, True Grit is not poorly shot. I agree with you. It is very well shot.
Yeah.
But it is not like the way this movie is shot is blowing me away.
Yeah.
Whereas Blade Runner 2049 is, I mean, for some people that's the only good thing about the movie. I disagree with that take, but for some people that's the only good thing about the movie. And it's kind of tough to argue that it is an incredibly shot movie. So
also, obviously, when the first Blade Runner was made and when this Blade Runner was made, you had to replicate it. And
pun intended.
No. I said it and I was angry with myself that I remembered what it was. But they had to replicate it and up the film quality because obviously technology and stuff, but it still had to feel like Blade Runner.
Yeah, it felt,
So I think it's more impressive that it kept that old vintage dirty look with this new technology. And like all of Denis Villeneuve's films look incredible, but this one stands out more because of the source material it had to copy.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to be talking about Blade Runner in a different video today, too.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Grand Budapest versus Hugo.
I don't feel
is that not an animated movie?
I don't feel like animated films.
That doesn't count. You rendered everything.
Yeah. So, either way, it was going to be the Grand Budapest Hotel. Speaking about things we're going to talk about later today.
Yeah, that's also true.
So Budapest.
Yeah. Inception versus La La Land.
Who's going to say it?
I was going to say Inception is like... So much of that is CGI also.
Yeah.
And La La Land is an incredibly shot film. But I don't think that Inception should even be on here.
Like, it's a beautiful looking film. Like, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's outside.
Mm-hmm.
The techniques to get everything the way it's supposed to be when they are bending the world and everything. The beach scene, stuff like that. Obviously, you get the big moving hallway that really stands out.
And that's a practical effect. I mean, that's...
But that movie's overrated as fuck. And
they did the whole spinning... You know who did the... Fred Astaire was in a movie where they did the whole spinning set piece thing. That's not new. And it's literally, you just set, like...
And obviously, 2001 Space Odyssey, a big famous one as well.
Right.
I really don't like Inception, so La La Land is a much better movie, I think, so...
It's also, in terms of cinematography, the better shot
The way it plays with color in that film is incredible.
Well, listen, we've already gone through 3 movies that we're going to be talking about later. So,
really?
Yeah.
That's only one for me.
And then, this is much more difficult, but 1917 versus Blade Runner.
That one shot's too clean to me. That's so impressive.
Well, it's not truly one shot.
I know, but the way it plays with the mind to me...
I'm fine with that. I mean, 1917. These are both, in my opinion, these are the two of the most cinematically beautiful movies ever. I'm not
I don't know what's on the other side.
Not in the mood to argue there.
I will let you go first.
Wow.
If you haven't seen his top 20 favorite movies of all time, both of these films are on there.
Yeah.
Where I'm not going to tell you. You got to watch the video.
It's true.
I'm gonna let you go first, dog.
Cinematography wise, so like. Wes Anderson pretty much does everything on his own movies, but he does not shoot them. Like, he can operate cameras, and he does some, but he is not his main cinematographer. Wes Anderson is the one that chooses the colors. He's the one that, I mean, he is a very controlling director, but he's not an ass about it, which is why actors like working with him. So most of why Grand Budapest is beautiful is because of the set and the color and everything. I do think it is an incredibly shot movie, but if we are talking cinematography, I have to give the nod to La La Land, and it's really not even that difficult to me.
Wow. I'm not even gonna argue with you on that.
I mean, do you understand what I'm saying, though?
I get your point, but you also have to think of what they do in Grand Budapest is on a higher scale. Nobody's falling out of buildings. And a lot of that is his style that we've seen replicated over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's not as effective. But I'm like you with the last one. How am I supposed to pick?
With Grand Budapest, you have a lot of pans. You have
his style with pans, zooms,
right, and stuff like that. La La Land does have Damien Chazelle's signature back and forth pan in one scene, but there's a lot of tracking. There's a lot of transition from like on rails camera work to not shaky cam, but just like hand cam work. Yeah. And so, in terms of like how like technique required to shoot the movie and everything along those lines, I think it's La La Land.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah. I mean, I'm also very impressed of how it goes with a normal everyday scene.
Yeah. And
then boom, it puts this film magic.
Yeah.
On it, and you don't second guess it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. This is another incredibly tough one. Man. So I'm feeling something that is interesting to me, in that I think it's because cinematography is maybe one of, if not my favorite aspect of filmmaking. I am just like completely unbiased, because normally I would want La La Land to win at all costs, and I just don't. Either of these could win, and I'd be completely fine with it.
I've never been more impressed with cinematography.
I think
in
it's
my life.
1917.
So
yeah,
that's the way I'm leaning to.
La La Land is an incredibly shot film, but it's not like there's this one like 1917 just has that wow factor.
Yeah,
and I can only think of 2 movies off the top of my head that I honestly think could maybe beat that, and we'll see if they're on here.
Like, I remember hearing my friends who Sean, Sean, he's not a big movie guy, but he likes war movies. He went to go see. He's like, oh my god, they didn't cut, or if they did, you couldn't tell. Yeah. Me being a film knowledgeable than him, I was like, well, I'm gonna see all the cuts, and I went in. I'm like, they definitely put a cut there, but it's so seamless. I've never been more impressed.
Yeah.
Here at Cinematopical, we're unfortunately poor, and this money you see on screen, that's CGI. That's not real money, because again, we're poor. So if you want to click in the ad eye in the corner, that video is monetized, and we can make money off it. So please go watch it.
And if you click an ad, we make more money. And if you really want to help, there's the thanks button right there below this video. The Tree of Life versus Skyfall. I've never seen The Tree of Life.
But for me, it's one of those things where I've seen it on a ton of lists. Terrence Malick.
Yeah.
Beautiful cinematography in there. Skyfall. Another one where I've seen on Watch Mojo and Cinefix.
Skyfall is beautifully shot.
Do you think it's harder to do cinematography for action than it is just a regular drama?
It's just completely different techniques. Physically, it is harder to do cinematography for action because the setup is way longer. You got to put all your tracks down. Everyone has to be on their markers. Or just completely falls to shit. But then versus drama, it's more of like you're going into angles a lot more. You're going into lighting matters a lot more. Whereas like most action movies are not, some really good action movies, i.e. John Wick, which I would put that on here before I put Skyfall on here, honestly. But yeah,
We'll go the Tree of Life.
I don't think I could say I think one is more difficult than the other. I think it's 2 completely different.
That's like the one thing that film was known for.
Yeah. Roma versus The Revenant.
I've only seen The Revenant.
I've only seen The Revenant too. Roma is beautifully shot.
Yes.
But The Revenant is tough because you have so many shots that are just of landscape.
Yeah.
And they are beautiful. But you also just set up on a mountain and then took some pictures of some landscape. I think the answer is The Revenant. I truly do. But
I feel like it's going to come into play when it gets a movie that we've both seen.
Yeah.
And it's more of an even playing field. I do social media stuff in real life. And it's really hard to make food look beautiful.
Yeah.
So having the cinematographer film the same fucking thing over and over and over and over again and making it look cool and interesting is I have a newfound respect for that now.
Sure, yeah.
Because, dude, food is fucking ugly.
Well, that's why, professionally they don't use real food.
Yeah,
But
that's a time for a different day.
I also just thought about the end fight and the way that was shot too, and that makes me lean Revenant even more.
You also get the bear.
Yeah, the
going
bear
down
is good.
hills and shit.
Yeah. All right, Prisoners versus Parasite.
Excellent movies. Cinematography. I don't think I would personally put these on there.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Prisoners go more heavy into the darks and the washed out tones.
Right.
Which Parasite kind of does too.
Especially towards the end.
Yeah, depending on where they're at, which house they're at,
Mm-hmm.
Prisoners sets a better tone with the cinematography, I feel.
Yeah, I don't disagree. This is another one that, I agree with you. I don't think I would have.
That other side is so stacked.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what comes up, but
there's not much left. Ooh.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Eat, son.
All right. Yeah. So Mad Max Fury Road and The Lighthouse.
I've seen beautiful black and white movies.
Yeah.
And The Lighthouse is a beautiful black and white movie.
Yeah.
But Mad Max is...
Yeah, it's
on its own.
Yeah, I agree. Mad Max was one of the movies I was talking about when I said I can only think of maybe one or two that...
Because, like, other than Asteroid City, there's not a movie that uses that color palette.
Yeah. Just like
good.
Yellows and...
Blues and oranges. And then when you get into all the driving scenes and shit...
Little Miss Sunshine.
It blows you away.
But, yeah. Little Miss Sunshine. Tons of yellows and oranges.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Rest in peace, Alan Arkin. I saw that yesterday.
Right, yeah.
And Dirty Grandpa. Revenant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure at this point we've kind of both...
Yeah,
I mean it doesn't matter what I click until I get to Mad Max again.
I can say the same thing for Mad Max, except for The Revenant. You're shooting the same thing over and over and over and over again. Other than that CGI dust storm, the landscape's the same. Other than the scene where you go in and you have all the creatures on the
stilts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I think they had to do a lot more with Mad Max. I mean...
Yeah, but a lot of that CGI too as well.
You're shooting up high, you're shooting down low, you're shooting like all these close-ups, all these wide shots, all these super wide shots. Mad Max is much more impressive to me than The Revenant was.
And also, a thing I really like about Mad Max, we talked about the color palette.
Yeah.
And the background is so vibrant that when you get to our characters and their clothes, they're washed out.
Yeah.
And it just makes so much sense logically, but it adds to the film a lot too. It makes it way more believable.
Yeah, that's true.
This is not the finals I thought we were going to end up with.
What did you think it was going to be?
It should be 1917 versus, if we're being completely honest, 1917 versus Blade Runner. That should have been the final for me.
That would have been my thought as well.
So I showed my hand. I'm, again, much more impressed with 1917. Mad Max should totally been on this list. It's not like others where it's like, that's a little weak. But this, to me, is a landslide.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's nothing I can really think of off the top of my head that I would throw on there other than Django. And that's because they go through so many landscapes.
Yeah.
They have so much more to play with.
But the Ex Machina, maybe.
Yeah, that's mostly shot indoors, though. Again, I would rather go a John Wick film since you're playing with colors and neons and stuff like that.
It's so funny. All the stuff I can think of are all like either the same directors or the same cinematographers.
Yeah.
Like Annihilation, but it's again Alex Garland. So
I don't know. I would kind of throw Honey Boy in there.
Yeah.
Because it has so much to work with.
And I'm sure if I looked up a list of like movies with the best cinematography and saw these lists, I would be like, that for sure should have been there. But off the dome.
Yeah. 1917 won. It probably would have got very high, if not won, if one of us made this bracket ourselves.
Yeah.
So we're not saying it's not unimpressive because it's extremely impressive, but let us know in the comment section below. Do we need to watch Tree of Life? What do you think would have won? Subscribe up, hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe.
It's not a game, it's a